So this is going to be an esoteric one, and probably a bit pretentious. You can tell because it's got the word esoteric in it. Just like every other RuneTuber under the sun, I've been playing way too much of the new league. It's the first one I've ever played, and it's been a lot of fun, but it also made me realise some things, such as RuneScape is huge. This game has so much stuff in it. Now, that sounds obviously obvious, of course it has a lot of stuff in it, it's an MMO that's been around for over 20 years, but I forget to appreciate how much handcrafted quality content this game really has. It's not copy-pasted Draugr dungeons, it's all genuinely worth your time. All these different places you can visit, all these NPCs you can have little chats with. Every one of these little things had to be made by someone. Some of them have been made over a decade ago, and they could be sat next to something made just over a week ago. This game has history, and so much of it is still relevant. When I booted up the game on League Day, I was overwhelmed, but in a good way, by just how many different things I could do to start my journey. All these skills I could train, all these quests I could do, all these tasks on a big list that I could start crossing off like some guy who really enjoys crossing things off lists. I ended up doing Cook's Assistant as my first thing because it's just a classic. On my main, which is an Iron Man by the way, I'm at that dubious, sinister, late mid-game, early end-game stage that is notorious for people getting burnt out, quitting and making YouTube videos about it. I've done most of the content in the game already, and that list just keeps getting shorter. When I sit down to play today, I've got probably 2 or 3 different activities I could be doing. You know, that make efficient sense to do so. I'm a RuneScape player, I'll die before I do something inefficient. But now that I'm in that position, it's really easy to forget how much stuff I had to do to get to that position. I've trained thousands of levels of skills, done hundreds of quests, clicked millions of times. This game is way more than Corrupted Gauntlet and Slayer tasks. It's just that I haven't done all this stuff in such a long time because I already finished it, and because of the way the XP levels and drop rates scale as you move through the game, you're going to be spending vastly more hours doing late game stuff than you are early game stuff. Which leads me along to, RuneScape is long. Again, it feels obvious. It probably feels like I'm making wateriswet.mp4 at this point. But again, once you get to the other side of all those long grinds that you've done, you forget just how many hours you grinded iron mining for so that you wouldn't have to ever do it again. It really struck me when I realised that even with the massive XP multiplier and the overpowered relics, it was still going to take me a good few hours of continuous play to get to 99 in each and every skill. I could completely finish several other games in the time it's going to take me to max my Leagues account, and that's in Leagues. I get nervous when I see hands in Lumbridge. I don't really want to know how many hours I've poured into this game. It's hard to not succumb to the intrusive thoughts when you see your playtime expressed, not in hours, but in hundreds of days. I'm not going to be some nihilist about it and pretend that I would have totally used all that time productively. Let's be real, most of that time was probably spent alongside doing other things to make them more fun, such as writing scripts. And at the end of it, I still enjoy playing it, so I don't see it as a waste of time. I just think it's kind of amazing that somehow a game can exist, that thousands of players can all play for thousands of hours and still find themselves enjoying it. That's pretty cool. But Leagues really has put in perspective for me just how long things can take to do in this game. I was hoping to max my main soon, which is still an Iron Man by the way, but I think now I'll just give it some time. With 200,000 players online the other day, I really don't think this game's going anywhere anytime soon. Speaking of 200k, the worlds were packed when the league first started. Lumbridge Cowfield was like the nerdiest, most XP efficient mosh pit you've ever seen. It was truly a beautiful sight to see so many people all running around like kids in some kind of store, just having a good time. No one was telling people to hop please. The competition for spots was actually kind of fun. Seeing who could click on the newsy spawn cow first was dumb, but I couldn't help but smile every time I got there before the guy next to me. And people talked. Compliments on people who've got a bronze spear drop from goblins, jokes about people who didn't take Trickster, people queued up for the lesser demon in the Wizard's Tower for God's sake. It was so cool to see and interact with so many players that it made me realise RuneScape is lonely. It's no secret that most of us treat it like a single player game these days. Sure, we do the occasional co-op mission that we call raids, and yes, we can join clan chats and talk to dozens of people in there, but it kind of feels like the difference between texting someone and seeing them in person. These random interactions with in-game strangers just don't happen very much anymore. In both the way we play and the way the game is made, we've optimised as much social interaction out of the equation as we can. How many of us would hop worlds if we saw one other player at a Slayer spot that has hundreds of spawns? How many new bosses are made to be instant solo only? This is going to sound insane, but one of the things I really liked about doing the fishing trawler in Wintertodt grinds was the random chat that happens there. You've got so many people squished into a small space with little attention required to perform the task that random banter just happens. Yes, some of it is unhinged and degenerate, but as long as it's not completely offensive, it's usually pretty funny. There isn't much space for interaction in RuneScape these days. We all have childhood stories of that guy I met at Lobsters and then we went and killed KBD together for hours, but that rarely happens anymore. I'm not going to pretend we can do anything about it. We're not 12 anymore. We don't need to roll out the friendship bench and force people to like each other. It's just that in those first few days of leagues, it made me remember what the first two M's in MMORPG stand for, and I found something new to be nostalgic about. But hey, the league is fun. This isn't a complaint or even a suggestion. It's just some things I thought, and maybe other people thought them too. It's nice to talk about. But anyway, that's all I've got for you today. Make sure you click those buttons to make the numbers go up, and I'll see you next time. Peace!